Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a fun bonus stream that we got for you here. A little look behind the scenes into our 6-episode mini-series of Coffee with Serge. I'm Graham, and as you can see, I was an executive producer, among other things, on the show, because this wasn't something that we did a lot of in-house, which is why we thought it'd be interesting to talk to you about it. Joining me, of course, here is Serge, the Coffee With.
Hi.
Whomst was host of the show. You've probably seen him in a few things, like Coffee with Serge. And joining us also is Chris, who was the primary camera and editor and co-producer with Serge of the show. So I thought we would did we get together and talk about this. How's it going, Chris?
I'm well. How's yourself?
Doing pretty well. So let's actually start just real quick off the top with yourself, because viewers at home are probably fairly familiar with myself and Serge at this point. But introduce yourself. Who is you? What is it you does?
My name's Chris G. Miller. I'm a cutter professionally. I'm a video editor.
I was going to say, you might have to explain what that is.
Yep.
It's in the parlance. I'm a video editor for a company called Monroe Thompson out of Vancouver. They're public relations and media. So I do a lot of work for small governments, small organizations, political things, that sort of stuff. Just making sure other people look good, really.
Yeah, there we go. And so you're also, I mean, apart from being the main like filming and editing force, you were also like the creative driver behind this happening originally, if I recall correctly. Because you two, I'm here largely as sort of moderator. I'm gonna launch you two off. How did this show come to be?
So I really should have thought of this earlier, but as we were sitting with about 15 seconds left in the countdown, I was like, I should find the original message. And I did.
No way.
Ooh.
November 1st, 2018, Oof. I got a cold DM on Twitter. Hello, my name is Chris G. Miller, and I'm a video editor here in Victoria. Anyways, a bunch of stuff down there. After seeing a couple of your Coffee with Serge segments on the G Vlog, I thought it might be a fun idea to shoot a series. Why don't we call it Caffeine with Serge or Get Wired with Serge? I don't know. We can workshop the name. I'll handle the film production. You handle the coffee. Would you like to get together sometime after Desert Bus and discuss? Here's my email.
Get Wired with Serge.
I still maintain my later title of Give 'em the Beans was superior, but everybody thought it was too aggressive.
Yeah, no, Chris just sent a random DM out. I guess he moved to Victoria. He liked Lure. He's like, hey, we should make a show. And I said yes. And so, yeah, we met at Neutral Ground. We met at a coffee shop in Victoria and just sat down and chatted. And I was like, this sounds super fun. Why not?
I definitely thought, you said we met at Neutral Ground, and I was like, Serge has never taken me to Neutral Ground.
Yeah, I don't know that cafe.
Oh, that is a good name for a cafe.
That's a good name for a cafe.
Neutral Ground.
Look, right? I just read a Jim Butcher
novel.
Very
slow jazz.
Yeah.
I definitely thought it was the name of a coffee shop for a second. So it's funny because, like, Serge, after, from the exact same inspiration, which is the times on my vlogs when you've taken us on coffee adventures, you and I had both, prior to that, been like, man, we should do more of this. We should do like more coffee videos at some point. Oh well,
yeah,
too busy for that.
You're like, man, these are fun, and people seem to really like them.
I mean, from my end, it was I had recently become really interested in very low cost filmmaking. Based on I think you and I actually, Graham, found them independently of each other, but moment lenses, the little lenses that you can pop on your cell phone and make anamorphic or really, really better lenses for actually decent looking video on a cell phone.
I got my case finally for the new one. Ooh. So I can now finally attach all the stuff to filter. Yeah.
And it looks absurd, but it actually works.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and some other different kinds of headphones and methods of very, very low-cost internet filmmaking. And because I've dealt with a lot of sort of big shoots and big movies even, the idea... I hate elitism in film.
Oh, yeah.
And like what you need to have, and like you always hear like, what do I need to get started in film? I love the answer of a cell phone, which you already own. So a big part of the idea was like, I want to be able to make a thing with just a cell phone and a gimbal, like some very like essentially $1,000 or less worth of stuff. And then while I had that thought, I was watching Serge do something in Minecraft. Probably endlessly redoing a column. And I was like, hey, wait, doesn't he like coffee? And then actually on Twitch, I asked you first. I said in the chat, like, hey, are you interested in, would this be okay to like contact you about a thing? And then I sent you the...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that just confirms my thought that I have no memory of anything that happens in Twitch chat ever. I just like, no, This is not the place to ask me things. It's just gone.
It was dueling Canadianisms of, is it okay if I bother you? Yes, please bother me if it's not too much time. You know, it was, yeah.
So the next steps after that were Chris and I actually tried to make this show ourselves. To some success. We like got the phone out and Chris had a gimbal and we went to my apartment and we shot some things. And I don't remember the exact timeline, but fast forward to PAX South 2019. And Graham and I are sitting down at a Tex-Mex restaurant together, frantically trying to eat between shifts at the booth at the table at PAX South. And I'm talking about Coffee with Serge, and we're excited about this, and we've got like a pilot or whatever. And I don't know exactly what, but Graham's like, I don't want to take your idea because I respect that it's your idea and it's yours. But what if we put this on Lure? And I'm like, wait a second, hold on.
I think, and I may be misremembering this too. I think you came to me before that too, because I think you felt the same way, like the other way of sort of like, this is something that I would like to do, and this is something that Chris and I very much intend to do, but it's like a spin-off of the vlog, kinda. Is this a thing you'd want to do with Loading Ready Run? And it was interesting because it's like, everything that we've done prior has been very in-house. We've never done a thing that ended up being like this, because I don't know how apparent it was from
it's a good question
from the show or from the end credits, right, where it's like, who's that name, and the place where it says editor, where it was like we had a lot of input, and we can talk more about that later, but how it was just sort of like, okay, well, we'll pay you and Chris to go away and make the show time, and then bring it back, and then we'll take it and put it on the channel. So I mean, I don't recall the timeline. It was quite a while at this point. But we were definitely on the same sort of wavelength of like, feel like this should be a Loading Ready Run thing. Feel like you don't have time to do it. That being me, which was correct. Could we do that? And we were like, yes, let's do that thing. So yeah, it worked well.
I like, there's a problem that happens in Loading Ready Run. It's like, we have a great idea. We don't have the editing capacity for this. And I was like, hey, I got a great idea. And I have an editor. And we're like, hold on, wait. Really?
Yeah.
Let's talk some more about this. All right, what was the timeline after that? Then there was a hilarious part.
Tell me more.
Then there was a hilarious part where we had the Loading Ready Run approval of the show, and we had this pilot, and Graham was like, okay, that looks fine, and I like this idea of the low-tech thing that Chris has suggested, but what if you used a better camera and better lights and better audio capturing stuff? What if we just bumped it up just a little bit?
We have these things. just like on a shelf at the office. So it's
I
like,
love your concept. It's great. What if we threw it out?
So I didn't know that aspect. I didn't know, which by the way, I love. I'm on board for the like, just get a phone, and make something. I love that. But I didn't know that was part of your original inspiration for this. So that I feel a little silly now. But yeah, I was like, do you want to just borrow our cameras and our lights and like just make it look a little nicer? You know, not that didn't look bad, but I was like, just take this and we have these things. So that's kind of funny actually now that I think about it.
So I sort
didn't know.
I took my piece of paper that had Dogma 95 scrawled on it and just threw it out.
Oh
No,
man,
it is why those two
Dogma
middle episodes,
95.
the tour episodes, are entirely shot on moment lenses on a cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people remotely understand the Dogma 95 reference.
I don't.
It was a filmmaking philosophy. It was a particularly fervent application of a broader filmmaking philosophy of. It's not just mise en scène,
Absolute
is
realism. It's an absolute dedication to truth.
Yeah,
So
where
it's low quality was a part of the aesthetic of. Yeah, it was.
like
It was
there's no
sort of,
makeup, no lighting. All the props have to be things that would have already already existed in the location. Like there's like no artifice, right? Like
Yeah.
zero
didn't even like to use
production.
real like professional actors. They wanted just people, and
Yeah.
it was the height of pretension.
Yeah,
Does it have anything to do with Kevin Smith and that
No,
Dogma or
Not
no?
at all.
no.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to double check, and I was like, wait, did Dogma come out in '95?
Yeah, no. Cool philosophy. You know, the things that came out of it were, as you'd expect, a little shaky because it was sort of the kind of the point. But yeah, sorry, Lafayette says no Smith, only Von Trier. Yes, Lars von Trier was. Yeah,
Yeah, it was very much taken up by the Scandinavian filmmakers who, well, they were like, we don't have props anyway, so it's great.
Did Von Trier himself ever actually make a Dogma 95 movie, or did he just make the manifesto and F off back to making his own stuff?
I think as soon as they started giving him money, he was like, you know what? I like things. Things are great. As it turns out, I was wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically, once we'd agreed, it's like, yes, let's do this thing. You filmed the pilot, which was the Serge's home setup episode, and you brought it back to the office, and we're like, here's what we did, and you know the funny TLDR of that conversation was, looks great, do it again.
Yeah.
Obviously there was more nuance to that conversation, but at the end of it, we were like, like you could do this sort of thing, you do this sort of thing. It'd be nice if it was like this sort of way. And, all of us were sort of looking at one another and was like, there's no way to accomplish all of that with what's already been filmed, is there? And nobody wanted to be the one to say, I think we have to just do it again.
Well, so an interesting thing about how it started. How do I segue this sentence? Chris and I
Start a new one.
Chris and I aren't directors.
Mm.
And I think one of the amazing things about working with you, Graham, is how much stuff you can put together in your head.
Mm.
How when you're writing a script, you're already picturing how you're going to shoot it. You're going to picture the angles. And as you're shooting it, you're probably already editing it as well, because you're a writer, director, actor. Like I don't mean to like build you up a whole bunch here.
No,
but
I get it.
yeah, and it's really neat how much of that you do. But like when Chris and I were putting this together, I know a bunch about coffee and a little bit about being on camera, and Chris knows a lot about editing. But when it actually came to how we want these shots to look, we're like, I don't know, just put the camera on Serge and Serge will talk and we'll have a show, right?
Right.
And that's what we handed you, was Serge talking about coffee. Just like this big static shot of just me being like, here we go. And you're like, okay, the content is great, but your presentation is lacking a lot here. And you're like, have you watched food shows, Serge? You're like, have you tried watching like Chef's Table? I'm like, oh, and a light went off on my head. Because at the time, we didn't have close-up shots.
Yeah.
The camera was the camera wasn't static. Chris likes to move a little bit as he shoots stuff, but it wasn't ever. We didn't have inserts of the products when I was introducing them. We didn't have like, if we talk about the beans, we don't show the beans to the face. We were lacking all of that at the time.
Yeah, I think I specifically, as much as it pained me to use the phrase, I specifically asked for a little more food porn. I was like, I don't like saying this, but you get what I mean, right? When it's like, really get a close shot in those beans and the grinds and everything. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because the style of editing that I come from, I was an edit doctor first, which means I fix other people's movies.
Right.
And I'm also a late stage, usually documentary. That's how I get most of my gigs is someone else has screwed up. There's 14 terabytes of footage and they need to publish Thursday. And I can usually take that apart and put it back together again. That's what I do. Usually even take footage from other projects, reform them into new things. That's how I work. Actually going out and creating the thing with which to work on, not in my skill set.
It wasn't until we were working on this project and I was searching my email one day that I found an email from you that I guess I had just missed. Being like, hey, this show that you're working on producing, I think it's called Road Quest or something. I've worked on like narrative documentary stuff. As an editor, I think it'd be useful to like. I think I could help you with that sort of thing. And of course, I didn't find that email until we were done. And I was like, huh. That might have been helpful, actually.
Yeah, no, that one was funny because you'd started Road Quest, or you'd started the fundraiser for Road Quest when I was still living in another city. I donated to the Thinger because I was like, yes, Canadian Top Gear,
hell yeah.
And then I moved to Victoria. My wife and I moved to Victoria, and then I was in between contracts for about 3 months, and so on my third week in Victoria, I sent you the email being like, I've just moved to Victoria, and I have some time on my hands. Do you want some help editing? Anyway, later. And then I never heard back, and I figured you were, he's Graham, he's a big deal. He's not answering emails from hosers who just moved to the island, more of these mainlanders.
Yeah. So Zealous Crow is like no shade intended, but LRR not that kind of fast at editing. I mean, so it depends, right? Because like, we've done PPRs, right, where I'm thinking of the one for Battle Bond specifically, right, where we had all our guests in town. We filmed a draft, and then I edited the draft video with like the cutaways and everything that night, and it aired the next morning at 11 a.m. We can do fast like that.
Oh, yeah.
But Road Quest was, I mean, this is not a Road Quest behind the scenes, but I've talked before about how there was a plan and a structure in place about how that was going to be edited, about like, like this step was going to be done by these people, and then this step by these people, and this and everything. And then that didn't happen for a variety of different reasons, personal and business reasons, all sort of stacking up at once. And so it was like, everything sort of fell apart there. So that was a big part of the delay there. But Road Quest footage was volumetric. Yeah, it just kept going. It just kept getting larger.
Possibly be more. Yeah. There's an entire other hard drive you haven't even touched.
No plan survives contact with the enemy.
True story.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know how exactly we got onto that. Oh, actually, so Serge, for what you said, since we've already talked about Dogma 95, this isn't even that weird of a digression. Robert Rodriguez, big fan of his like. I like a lot of his movies, but much more so, I like a lot of his behind the scenes stuff.
Rebel Without a Crew.
Yeah, well, and I'm thinking specifically of the God, was it 5-minute or 15-minute? Or did he do both? Like the 5-minute film school and then the 15-minute film school? I think he did both of these things as like DVD special features or something. I'm thinking specifically of Desperado, which was like a remake of El Mariachi. Did I get that the right way around?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's talking about filming El Mariachi. And he's like, I'm shooting this all myself. I've got my one camera and I can only afford so much film. And so when he was filming it, he was, and I do this constantly, he was editing in his head and being like, So I want to cut from that to this, to this, to this. Okay, so I know exactly what I need. So he only shot exactly the bits that he needed to work for the edit, so that he used as little film as possible so that he could actually afford to make this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's. I mean, you look at like, was it Spy Kids, right? And he was like, I want to make this film because I think it'd be fun, and we'll do, because
You wanted to try out the CGI tech.
yeah, I think my kids would enjoy it. And people are like, we're not going to fund that. And he's like, well, F you then. I'm going to go in my basement and teach myself how to do 3D visual effects. And then he did. And he made 3 Spy Kids movies. And then,
Really?
yeah, then used that knowledge to make Sin City, which was all done on like a green screen on his own studio. And yeah, it's wild. Anyway, I love that kind of sort of that kind of philosophy. But yeah, sorry, as some folks are like, whoa, I had no idea. Yeah, it's like, yeah, obviously the Spy Kids movies are shaky, but considering that a lot of the CGI was done by him, is like, yeah, right. So
Yeah, they usually say in filmmaking that it's. I mean, the triangle of like fast, good, and cheap.
yeah,
With the big 3 roles on a movie, there's usually a talent triangle that you only get 2. Usually you're a good director and a cinematographer, but you're not a good editor. And sometimes you're a good director and a good editor, but not a good cinematographer, or you're a good cinematographer, but almost never is a solo cinematographer a very, very good editor. Like you sort of have to divide. There's only like Robert Rodriguez is one of the few that actually still does all 3.
yeah.
Most directors don't. The closest you get is maybe Ridley, who will often shoot his own stuff. But
Oh, Ridley.
yeah,
We were talking about Blade Runner before we came online. Anyway,
So episode 1,
yes.
we had to shoot, I want to say 6 times.
2 seconds. Wow, hang on. 2 seconds. I need to take off. Getting so
Yeah.
warm in here.
We talk about coffee. I get sweaty too, Graham. It's okay. I get sweaty every time we talk about
Coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. So we filmed it once, and remind me if this is true or not, Chris. Was it the first or the second time we ever filmed it that I accidentally double clicked the power button for the audio we were recording?
Oh, right.
And
yeah,
Chris got home, and the first thing he heard was, all right, that was great. Let me just turn this off. Was the first bit of audio we heard, because it was off the whole time. And then I hit the power button to actually record the local audio. And Chris was like, I don't know how to tell you this, Serge, but we have to reshoot everything.
I even took the onboard audio and tried to scrub it. To just and then I just didn't tell you for a week because I was like, he's gonna. Oh.
You're like, this sounds so bad.
You don't
And-
get you
everything.
Yeah. That has to you have to do that once. Like it has to. We've done it way more than that. In the early days of Loading Ready Run, we've definitely messed up shots with the like the footage you get is getting the camera into position and going like, all right, this will be great. Okay, ready? And then, oh, great shot, everybody. Right? Like you, it's like camera rolling and turned off. And yeah, like, oh yeah, we've done that a bunch. That's,
I mean, by the 3rd shoot, we were pretty good at it.
Yeah, and the nice thing about all that practice was by the time we actually had usable footage, I had a pretty good idea of what we were going to say, because nothing was scripted.
Right.
A lot, I mean, there were bullet points that I wanted to hit, but I didn't have a teleprompter. I didn't have notes that I was referring to. We just kind of started brewing, and I talked myself through the process. And so it turns out with, 14 takes or whatever, by the end of it, it was all right. And then at the very end, this was after we'd gotten your feedback and you wanted the close-up visuals, you wanted everything. We did what I felt was like the Bob Ross shot. So we shot everything from the front and we did everything. And then because we only had one camera person and one camera, we did everything exactly the same, but from reverse.
Yep.
So I had to try and replicate all of the steps perfectly. And the nice
for all
thing
the close-ups.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, no, we just did it from reverse, not even the close-ups. And then we did the close-ups after. So you'll find sometimes there's just different angles. Roughly, is that about right, Chris?
We only reversed a couple just because
okay.
Me getting behind the table was a little bit more difficult. And I'm big enough that I could just essentially boom for the top downs. But yeah, more or less. Yeah.
The reference there is that if you see on The Joy of Painting, every one of those paintings that you see on the Joy of Painting, Bob Ross did each of those paintings like more or less identical 3 times. Once off camera to try it, then once on camera for the show, and then again for the companion book. So, yeah. It's kind of funny. So I guess there's 3 copies of most of those out there.
Yeah, so that was filming episode 1, and then I think it got a little bit easier after that. Like 1 and 2 were pretty much the same thing. We set up for the shooting day, and once we actually had the proper flow and setup going, 1 and 2 we knocked off in a day, which felt pretty good.
I'm gonna intercut because you're doing production order versus airing order. You are talking about episodes 3 and 4.
Right. All right. Thank you. You're correct.
Well, because I mean, the episodes break down into sort of 3 categories of there is, and they were sort of on purpose done differently and even edited differently. Because I'm an editor who very much believes in editors shouldn't have a style. That you should make it the style of whatever you're shooting will tell you how to cut. Will tell you how to cut it. So the ones that Serge is just speaking of, the one that in his kitchen or in your living room, I should say, dining nook.
My apartment isn't big enough to have separate spaces. The corner of my apartment where the table is,
where the food goes. Those ones are very much shot and cut like a stand and stir cooking show, so very traditional. The other 2 where we're out and about are done very much sort of pseudo vlog style, very loose cutting or very mobile camera. And then the third ones are done much more, actually, inspiration of a Guy Fieri. I modeled the editing on that kind of show. Where,
wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I can kind of see that now, actually. Just like a very, your celebrity chef goes to a kitchen and checks a bunch of stuff out. And that's what I noticed there's like some fast cuts sometime, especially in the dialogue, the way you'll cut back and forth. I never even thought of that.
Well, that one I had to trick people into watching 20 minutes.
I love that as the show went on, the episodes got progressively longer. And I don't know how that ended up working out either.
I don't think that was intentional.
Yeah.
Well, it's because I tried to cut them to themselves, not based around, like, if Graham had given me, like, all right, 6 episodes, each of them 12 to 13 minutes, which is what I'm used to, then we would have forced it into that. But in this case, I just sort of let the footage be what it was.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the 18-minute latte one, maybe we could have trimmed that one slightly. But the thing is, with YouTube, you have that freedom, right? So
we could have cut out the contest, I guess.
The contest was, I mean, getting to see Serge actually sort of take a crack at it was definitely very good.
I suppose from like a meta level, it was neat trying to put the show together, because when we were brainstorming, we had a lot of ideas of what we wanted to do and potential things. And then Graham, as executive producer, was like, all right, we're going to do 6 episodes. And then Chris and I had to have quite a few meetings to figure out what we wanted to do with those slots. And I am quite happy with how we ended up on these themes of 2, because I think it's a great way for like a pilot season to get feedback and to have people be like, well, what did you like? Did you like the episodes where I'm the expert and you're in my apartment and it's like, welcome to my laboratory? Did you like the vlog style? I think people really like vlog style because they're like pretty loose. They're low investment, right? You can just kind of lose yourself in the music and there's a good rhythm and you're not actually listening to what happens. Or did you like the ones where I'm the interviewer and I'm letting another expert talk and I'm trying to just guide them through? And also shout out to Tristan from Fernwood Coffee, who did a really good job of speaking. And it was funny because I talked to him afterwards. He's like, oh yeah, I was super nervous. Like, really?
He did not. I mean, to be fair, I have trouble reading Tristan most days, but it certainly did not come across as nervous in the episodes.
Yeah, stoic gentleman.
Yeah.
And probably if we're talking about nerves, the ones that made me the most nervous were episodes 3 and 4, or the ones that were in my house where I'm presenting myself as the expert, because I figured those are the ones where people can be like, you're wrong. I just hit my microphone. You're like, you are presenting something as a fact and that is incorrect. The industry has moved on, right? Your information is 5 years out of date. People aren't pre-wetting their filters anymore, Jaeger. Turns out that you don't actually have. Yeah, burrs are old news, right? Just something like that, and
We use plasma lasers now. Yeah.
yeah. Nobody uses a V60. You sea cucumber. Get with the
Roll
times.
onto the V69. Nice.
I mean, I think so. Generally speaking, I think that people liked all of them, but I think that those ones particularly were some of the easiest because it was like from that perspective, because it's like, let's see what Serge like. Let's hear Serge talk about what Serge likes, and you were very clear in those episodes about like, hi, this is me, and this is what I do. But
Yeah.
there's no rules to liking coffee, right? I was just pleased with how many people, and this is something we've experienced with, with like our wrestling podcast, or to an extent the James Bond podcast as well. Of like, I don't actually enjoy Thing, but I like watching your video about Thing.
I keep getting that in all this content I make. North 100. I don't even play Canadian Highlander, but I love your podcast.
Yeah.
And I just what is this weird niche market we've hit where that is the feedback you get? I don't.
We're wholesome.
I guess.
I just like to listen to nice people be nice to each other.
Yeah. I enjoy things that are nice.
Yes, me. I mean, the nice thing about the At Apartment episodes are they were the lowest barrier to shoot. Because you're not going to somebody's place. You're not going outside. You don't have to worry about the weather. You don't have to worry about like natural lighting or getting rained on like the vlog style episodes. You're not trying to sync up a bunch of people's timing and schedules and getting permission to shoot, like reaching out to a bunch of different roasteries. So that was it. But I don't know. I sometimes worry. It's like, how long do people want to let me just ramble on about a thing?
Well, I mean, they provide all 6 of them do this, even if they're different styles. They all demonstrate, and the core of the show is Serge's absolute and complete adoration of coffee.
Yeah. You can't fake that.
That what we're showing off. It's and so they're all just angles of the same thing. And watching somebody be passionate about something is fun.
Yeah, it's great. I like it. I'm often the person gushing about the thing that I like, but I also just enjoy watching it. It's great. And 100% you are just friendly and it lures people in. Exactly. Rock and roll nerd. Great username, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What else do we want to talk about production-wise before we move on to any Q's and or A's people might have? I know, actually, because you have this prepared. Our one thing is our fun logo. Whoop, up there. Put together by Braden Hallett. Hallett?
Yes.
Yes. And we have some concept sketches that Chris provided. So on your, maybe they're the wrong order, but whatever. On your right,
the black and whitey ones, yeah.
The black and whitey ones were like, here are some high level concepts for what a logo could look like, and we liked going in on Serge's little wooden grinder, which was concept A there. Though I do like coffee head. I like the square mug actually. I just kind of want that mug. And then different treatments. Once we said that we liked the grinder, then going in with different treatments of what that could look like. And obviously you can see between that and the final result that I weighed in on font. That's
my favorite part. It's like, all right, we have a name, we have a logo, Graham, font family, please.
Yep. And we did talk about the name of the show. Like you joked earlier about like Caffeine with Serge or Get Wired with Serge. And like we were trying to figure out, like, do we want to, because that's a discussion you have to have when you're doing, branding about like, is this what we want to do the show? And in this one, this was so much that like Serge is so much part of this. It's such his personality and his joy for coffee that it didn't make sense to be like, cute name hosted by Serge Yeager, or it's like, a name that could potentially be used when Serge gets replaced in a future season, right? It's like, no, that's not how this show is going to be. Let's just call it Coffee with Serge. It just makes the most sense.
Just say the subtext.
Yeah.
Now, what's the show about? Well, it's about Coffee with Serge. Mm-hmm. What do we call it, though?
I don't know where that discussion is, but I'm sure it's written down somewhere. But
I think it was all in Slack, which means it's gone.
probably gone forever.
Gone
yeah.
forever.
Oh well. I would watch Fonts with Graham. Tempting. I tell you what. Someone asked. I had that mug. I was on Checkpoint this week. Somebody in the comments was like, "What does that mug say?" Because it's just a white mug with a picture of a tweet on it. It's actually a tweet from Kanye West of all people, which is like, but the content of the tweet is just, I have complicated feelings about fonts. That was a gift from Andrew, who knows me very well. So
Yeah, I'm so used to working with a few designers that whatever font I choose is wrong. So I just, like, half the time I'll just make them Comic Sans and send them. And then, like, you fix it. I don't care.
I mean, that's
like,
just, yeah, that's just your way of saying, I know you're going to change this. So
here, yeah.
Here you go. Well, so actually, I just want to talk briefly, because I thought I'm not putting you on blast here. I thought this was very entertaining. When you and I had a creative disagreement around the concept of a cross dissolve.
All right. So for people who aren't professional editors, what is a cross dissolve?
It's just when you fade between two shots.
When you dissolve a cross, Serge.
Yeah, when you put a cross in acid. No, it's just the most basic transition that's actually a transition and not just a pure cut between two shots, right? Just
shot A fades out at exactly the same moment that shot B fades in, so you always have 100% opacity over the black.
Just like that.
Very nice.
That was beautiful. Good. Yeah, nice dissolve.
It's just good staff work.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Paul. We do have these. These are they're nice. They're glass. Great. Anyway, we can talk about that actually in a second too, from like a funny production story there. But Chris had it dissolving from the shot of the opening title logo into Serge talking, and I was like, I really don't like cross dissolves. I think it just kind of looks weird. I was trying to figure out I don't know what I said. Was it like, because you do so much corporate stuff? Did I say that just like, this looks kind of like a corporate training video? Or
yeah, it was. I was arguing for smoothness, and you were arguing for quality, which is absolutely correct. It's because I tend to bias towards inoffensive edits,
right?
When at all possible, for corporate, for government, for so many other things, even for a lot of documentaries, to make the edits as non-apparent as possible.
Right.
Whereas, and I believe the line you're alluding to is my response of like, listen, let's get on the phone, we'll argue about it, you'll win, but let's figure it out. Which is very much sort of the editor's perspective of because as I said, no editor has final cut.
Right.
So you like, I'm used to the whims of others, but I at least want to have the fight. And then we switched it over. Because, hey, that 20% of the time I'm right, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
I want you to hear my perspective before I listen to you anyways.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so, and then, yeah, we just sort of, and then I changed it over, and I played it once, and I think my actual response was like, God damn. He's right. It's better.
Yeah. You're like, damn it, you're right.
We had like a whole other intro that we just completely cut at some point too, right? Where
the one where you sit on the bench and explain who and what you are.
Yeah, there was this 2-minute thing. I don't know if it ever made it into anything we ended up showing Graham, where Chris was like, "You need to establish yourself as the expert."
Right.
So we were walking around Oak Bay, sat me down on an outdoor shot, and was like, "All right, tell me like." What is your coffee CV? Go. And I'm like, oh, okay, I worked in the industry for like 10 years. I worked as a roaster, as a barista. I helped train barista competitions. I've traveled the world. I drink a lot of coffee. Where do I go from here? I'm panicking. I'm on the spot. And I like eventually that we're just like, you know what? And just kind of tossed all that.
Well, I tossed it once we moved to Loading Ready Run. Because originally the show was just going to go out on your YouTube channel.
Right, okay.
But once we bounced to Lure, I was like, we don't need to spend 3 minutes introducing Serge. The audience knows him, so I can use that time for other things.
Even then, I think just this is unsolicited creative feedback as well. Even then, I don't think that it's the sort of thing that you necessarily need, where it's like upfront to have like, this is who I am and why you can listen to what I'm talking about. Just start talking. And
Yeah,
if your stuff is good and you speak the truth, and then it's just apparent. Right.
I don't think Guy Fieri does that either. Hey, welcome to Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. I'm Guy Fieri. I've been a chef for the past 35 years. I run a series of successful kitchens. I'm going to take you to Flavortown. Today's episode.
I actually stole it from one of Bourdain's early shows where he does it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where he's like, I'm Anthony Bourdain. I was an exec chef for this. I've done this, and now I'm going to do this. And that was really all it was. And again, I felt if we were going to be starting this on a brand new YouTube channel, we had to introduce you to people who only found it through related coffee links.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And as I said, in the end, we didn't need it, which is why it got cut early on.
I'm Guy Fieri. I won a contest on Food Network. Is that how he started?
I thought he was a chef first.
I think he just sort of congealed.
I just know that his whole like visual aesthetic was basically an accident that he's rolled with because it's distinctive.
It's a good look. It works.
It works for him, yeah. But it's like, I think it was like the pilot for Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. The costume person put him in a bowling shirt, and he was like, "All right." And then it was a different costume designer for the actual series who watched the pilot and was like, "Bowling shirts, got it." And then he was like, "Here's a rack of bowling shirts."
There was a very specific time of the 90s where bowling shirts were very cool.
Oh, we should have had a costume person for our show, Chris. I think we've discovered what we need.
Writes down bowling shirts.
Right, potentially for the future. Just something louder.
Yeah, we'll get you in bowling shirts. We'll do your hair, and you can regrow that soul patch.
Oh, there you
I
go.
actually can't grow facial hair right here, but I digress.
I don't know. Should we move on to questions? I guess
I like that. I like that.
Cues, yeah.
So yeah, basically, post your questions in chat. I'll call them out. Before you do that, I'm going to start with what is probably the most common question that I would expect to see. So I'm hoping to sort of nip this one in the bud, which is, when can we expect more? Can we expect more? Will there be more Coffee with Serge? We have nothing to report at this time because, yes, we are still in the middle of a global pandemic. So. No, I have nothing to confirm nor deny, but it would be nice.
Yeah, apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, to create film, one must first have a world to create it in.
Yeah. While people post some stuff, I'm going to go with a question that I saw go by earlier from Rock and Girl Nerd, which was asking about the music. Was it original for the show? Was it where did it come from? Was it created for the show? If I recall correctly, it was not an original piece.
Yeah, it was. That was a throw to me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I threw on just basic temp music that nobody likes. The simple rhythm the first time around, and then after that, there was a brief group of sort of we were thinking hip hop for a little bit there, and then in the end we came down to sort of a coffee shop jazz, which thematic. But the question, the question that we've seen, I saw a few times in the comments and in the chat is the opening song, the Serge theme, is called Duda D-U-D-A by Ian Post. The music I did actually entirely through Artlist.
Right.
And actually, what I was really excited about in the comments, I did notice that people noticed that it is your theme song in the coffee art scene. That Tristan gets music, Matt gets music, and you get music, and your music is your theme song.
Oh my God, that's Serge's song.
He's got an espresso.
All right, question for Serge from Gaetanic Panic. Hi, Serge. Have you had any experience with using mesh filters like the coffee cone? How does it compare to paper for pour over?
Ooh, all right. So like
Very
legitimate
involved.
just questions about coffee at this point. All right.
Go.
I don't want to spend too long on it. All filters have holes in them. Otherwise, if they didn't have holes in them, water wouldn't go through it because they'd be solid. Does that
Good
make
answer.
sense? Is everyone on the same page?
Yeah, I'm with you so far, Ted.
The larger
principles.
the holes in the filter, the more solid particulate comes through. So a metal, like a mesh thing, has much larger holes because you can see through it than paper. Paper has holes in it, but you can't see them because they're so tiny, right? But that's why like light can pass through it. That's why water can pass through it, and it grabs stuff. So the finer your filter is, the more it's going to pull out, the cleaner the coffee that you get on the other end is. So those mesh filters can be very tasty. And what they're going to do is they're going to let more particulate through. You're going to get more of a solid coffee, more full body. You're going to get more particulate at the bottom of your cup. It's going to be like that little bit of muddy residue that sits in the little bottom of it. I like them. I like mesh filters because they're reusable. So for example, when we went on Road Quest filming, I brought a Chemex with a metal filter with me, and I just like bang it out and clean it every day instead of having to throw things out. But I typically brew with a paper filter because I like how clean that is.
Yeah, kind of jealous of RoadQuest sound guy Jay, who got to wake up every single day to the scent. He didn't even drink coffee, but he liked the smell of coffee, to the scent of Serge hunched in the corner of the hotel room doing chemistry.
Very quietly trying to grind coffee without waking him up.
Yeah. That's a good question. What is the font in the logo?
Oh, that's also in the Slack somewhere.
Hold on. This is going to take me a while to find. In the meantime, I'm going to say Incubus Geek says, what's your opinion on home espresso machines?
I think Tristan did a very good job of talking about this in episode 5, where Tristan walks us through espresso, which is that better equipment, more expensive equipment is going to give you much more control. And so while you're able to make yourself a good cup of coffee at home at a budget, that's just like the difference between, you know, a $300 machine and a $3,000 machine and a $30,000 machine is you're just going to get a much higher ceiling in what you're going to be able to do. You know, are you going to be perfectly happy with a home espresso machine? Oh, probably. Well, what is the budget that I'm going to need? How much money am I going to have to make before I can have espresso that makes me happy at home? We're not there yet.
Wow. Shout outs to Joey Ballast. Chat there. Yes, the font is Syra with the word in the logo there. The word coffee specifically is in Syra stencil, and then the rest is in Syra. That's well played.
Did somebody actually no-scope the font of the logo?
Joey Ballast is Braden Hallett.
Oh!
The designer.
That makes more sense that you were able to do that.
Wow,
right,
that's
good.
amazing.
Good job, yeah. Bob the Ninja Goldfish. Question, was there ever a chance to see more of the cafes that you did in the vlog style episodes, talking to them about their thoughts on coffee? I mean, there wasn't.
Short answer?
There wasn't
Short answer. Go ahead, Chris.
A lot of it was very much meant to be the almost a tourist impression of it, like what coffee shops are good to go in, what is good to get there, which we sort of cover. There was also an aspect of we're going into these places of business and let's interfere with them as little as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I saw comments about that as well, where people are like, I wish you'd slow down. I wish we had more of a chance to like learn about the cafe and talk to the owner. And we did that a little bit when we went to hide and seek. And I ended up getting like a little bit bummed out because the audio wasn't good, but we didn't think to mic him up when he was talking. Yeah. And I also didn't even think about using the camera microphone and getting all the music from the cafe in there too, and just what an absolute nightmare that was all going to be. But you're right, that wasn't the idea. And if we wanted that sort of idea of sitting down and talking to the owners, well, that's what episode 5 and 6 were. We're sitting down with Tristan and doing a deep dive. And when it comes to scheduling, just that level of complexity gets so much harder of trying to like, okay, who's free while you're at your job to sit down and talk to us for a long amount of time. I think Graham and I got really lucky at one of the Japanese coffee siphon coffee vlog we did together.
Oh, yeah.
Where the person at the brew bar was able to sit down and talk to us at length about the brew process. And the audio happened to just work out too, despite the fact that they weren't mic'd. And I think a lot of people in Loading Ready Run saw that video and they're like, this is a great example of what it's like to go into a cafe and drink coffee. And of course, a barista is just going to be available to talk to you for 20 minutes straight, right? You're like, well, a little bit harder to pull off, unfortunately.
That I potentially also be just because of the simple name of Japanese coffee siphon. That is my second most watched vlog.
Behind like the game nights one, right?
Yeah, and it's at recent count, Japanese Coffee Siphon has 120,000 views, which is ludicrous.
What?
So that's cool.
Huh.
Wow. All right, neat. Anyway, the Maricat asks, electric burr grinders? Question mark.
If you got the money for it, heck yeah.
Yeah. At your recommendation, someone very kindly bought for the Moonbase an electric burr grinder, the Baratza Encore.
Oh, yeah.
And then the following year, Kathleen bought one of those for me for Christmas, and it's great.
I got one for my parents for Christmas as well.
Nice.
And I've been, I don't know, like Earmuffs Joe, I've been thinking of getting us an electric grinder too instead of the hand grinder. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Well, we've got enough different brew methods in the house now that having just a little bit more precise control might be really nice too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'd have to change the logo.
Contingent Cat asks, if the series, I guess if I had said, okay, go ahead and make us 7 episodes, what would the 7th episode have been? Because we had all these ideas. We're going to add local cafe deep dives to the long list of potential future ideas. But what would the 7th one have been?
Roasting.
Ah,
Yes. It would have been with Tristan at the Fernwood Roastery, having him walk us through what roasting is. Because so many people just think it's this weird magic that, like, well, coffee beans are these roasted things, right? They don't know about green beans or what goes into that whole process.
Yeah. What was the name? Was it Drum Roaster? Where did we go?
We went to Drum Roaster. Yeah, you, Beej, and I all got in a car, drove up to Drum Roaster.
On like a scout, essentially. And we never ended up filming there because they were going through renovations or whatever, and it didn't end up working out. But yeah, because we were going to film something about roasting.
Yeah. And it would have been very cool as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's there's a couple of behind the scenes or less public facing parts in the coffee industry that I think are really cool that I would love to show audience. One is roasting, and I might be biased because I worked as a roaster for 3 years. And so like that was a big part of my life and I really enjoy it. And I think it's just fascinating. It's kind of like baking. It's just like weird math and magic and then like it's very visceral. Like you get your hands in there and then they're on fire and the smell and the auditory. There's so many audio cues in roasting that it'd be such a challenge to pick up because the roaster is so loud at the same time too. Like I don't know how we'd be able to let people hear the crack, which you're like, Serge, without context, it sounds really weird, but is a very, very important part in roasting. There's like first crack, second crack. Apparently you can go to third crack, but I've never done that before.
Is it like the noise that the beans make?
All right, we'll dive into this now. Coffee is kind of like popcorn.
Okay.
In that before it's processed, it's inedible. And then at a certain point in the chemical reaction, it explodes. And then it softens enough that you can actually do something with it. So popcorn, it's much more visual because it's like whole corn and then it explodes. In coffee, though, they double in size. They release a lot of gases and oils and a huge chemical reaction builds up inside the bean and then it pops. And it's auditory. And it sounds like popcorn when it's happening. Yeah.
So possibly related to that, because maybe you want to. I sense that I've interrupted you, but let me just throw in this question from Incubus Geek, which is like, can you explain differences in roasts? You know, people talk about like Italian roast or even just dark roast, right? Like, how does that work into what you're talking about?
So, oh God, I want to pull up like graphing paper and start drawing stuff like that. For the first part, those are all preferences. They're not like a thing. You know, it's not like this is an Italian roast and an Italian roast is always this.
Right.
It's not as much of a classification. It's like what's medium rare in a steak.
What? I mean, I think you could classify that.
But it's pretty close. Like, you know, every meat is different. The cook is doing that. And there's a rough idea of it's close to it, but it's not like it's a check mark thing. It's because like coffee is an organic, actually, roasting coffee and cooking a steak, I find, is a very straightforward analogy.
Right.
Which is...
So like... Oh, sorry.
You put it into the thing, a certain amount of time goes by, a certain amount of temperature goes by, and you take it off at a certain point. And If you have a very high quality meat or a very high quality bean, sometimes you roast a little bit less and you let the coffee talk more about it. And if you have a lower quality meat or a lower quality bean, sometimes you just roast it until it doesn't taste like anything and you cover it in vanilla or teriyaki. And
and so there's no like international presumably French board of describing, just because most of those
you don't send your beans off to Paris and they come back and you get the approval of like, yes, this is a certified French roast. No,
like
it's
one
just a
roaster will be like, they'll just roast them darker than they normally do and be like, this is our dark roast, and their dark roast might be a totally different thing than a different place's dark roast, just because they do it differently.
Yeah, there's no standard of a color, and you're like, you don't hold your beans up against a graph, and you're like, okay, it showed up right in this area or something like that. Because a lot of specialty roasters will also take it to a different color. There's a lot to dive into. There's a lot to dive into on that. But I mean, let me try and find one last closing thought to figure this out. So you have temperature and you have time.
Right.
And what happens is there's external temperature. Oh God, I can't do this quickly, can I? No, it's fine. There's temperature, there's time. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. You preheat your oven, you dump all your beans into it, and then it drops very quickly because obviously the beans are room temperature and they're going to suck a lot of the heat out. And then as time goes back, that graph is going to start to build back up. And eventually you're going to stop roasting, but you're going to have this curve. You're going to have this curve and it always looks like this. You have a drop and then you have a bottom out point and it goes up, and then you can mark where your first crack is, you can mark where your second crack is, and then you drop it all out and it's over. And those are called roast profiles. And you can graph that. And sometimes, and what a lot of modern places do, is they have a computer plugged into their coffee roaster and they're also graphing that. And then every time you have a coffee, say you're like, I have this single origin Guatemalan, or I have our decaf, or we have our house espresso, those will all have a profile. And those profiles are always unique to every cafe, because there's so many circumstances. Every machine is different. Every location is different. Every roaster is different. What people like to drink is different. And it's more common for every place that is roasting their beans to have a bunch of in-house profiles. And that's what their roast profile is. It's just the temperature over time and when they decide to stop it and how quickly or long they extend that whole process. And then a place might be like, okay, we have 5 different single origin coffees. And we know this is typically what we like our African profile to look like, but we might tweak it.
We went to hide and seek today, and the people in front of us ordered some pour overs, and of course everyone's waiting, separated from everybody else, and in the delineated waiting zone, and the drinks for the people in front of us came out, and it took me half a second to realize that the names of these women were not Mex and Kenya. Because that's what was written on the cups.
Oh man!
Right?
That's really good.
Scribbled Mex and Kenya on the cups, and I was like, "Huh, it's interesting. Those are the roasts. That's the origin of the."
Yeah.
They're
that's
testing
how they kept their order separate.
I see now. Yeah.
You always need those occasional moments to prove to yourself you're not quite as smart as you think you are.
Yeah.
Just this. Oh, I'm a dumbass. Good.
Question from Spectosaurus Rex. Chris, I'm wondering, what were some editing decisions that you made that were really pleased with the outcome? Like even just a specific cut or transition? I also can never remember. By the way, what we didn't talk about is like how long these were. Like these episodes were like basically ready to go in March, essentially, like almost I did some final tweaks. We were talking earlier just before we started the show about how the producer tends to get final edit. We were talking about that. We're basically ready to go. And then it was like lockdown happens and we're like, let's not put out a video of Serge walking around to all these different cafes right after we've just gone into a lockdown. And then eventually it got to the point where it was like, we should actually just do this because I think it'd be nice for people. So it's been a while.
Enough. Yeah.
So I don't know, Chris, do you have any recollections there?
It's they're No. Is the short answer. Because I try not to do very clever editing.
Right.
There's a place for clever editing. There's a place for edits that are meant to be there and have significance. But a lot of the time, especially on something like this, where the focus isn't on, shall we say, the visual art, the focus is on delivering information and Serge's love of something. Anything that detracts from that, I essentially pulled. I only left in one thing that maybe I should have pulled if I was a little bit more disciplined. It's where Serge is in, it's the second of the touring episodes where Serge is in the Fernwood. Sorry, not I call
The
them
little
both
June
Fernwood.
parking lot. I think I know what you're talking about here.
No. The one where you're sitting in
Discovery?
no, it's the Fernwood, the other one, the one on
Little June.
not Little June, the
The
other
parsonage.
The parsonage.
Thank you. That's the one. Where you're talking about a younger, more more pretentious Serge, and I cut in a shot from like you in at maybe 21.
Yeah, like an old picture of me on Twitter of like I'm on a baggage carousel and I have long hair and I'm throwing up the horns or something like that. Yeah, okay.
You're very 90s cool. You're very aughts. High school cool. Yeah, and like, but as I said, from editing, I tend to think the editor should vanish.
Mm-hmm.
It should just be, and then the cuts you make are sometimes they're a little obvious, but it's to, as I said, to not be noticed. Like a really good stagehand, you don't see him.
Yeah. Fubar Games, right. Did we get the funny production story about the glass mugs? So the mugs, which are available on store.loadingreadyrun.com, these are made by Keep Cup. And Beej and I were talking about what we wanted to do if we wanted to do something merch-wise for the show. And we decided we wanted to do drinking vessels because that'd be a fun thing. And I was like, I think we should do Keep Cup because I think because Kathleen and I each have one. We use them ourselves. They're really nice. I see them in all the coffee shops. I think it'd be good. And Beej went and looked and was like, yeah, that's actually something we can totally do. They're not the cheapest. And we're like, yeah, all right, that's true. Maybe we can look at some different options. And so we did, and we eventually settled on one that was much more sort of bulk produced. Still very nice. We weren't going to do anything that was like crap, but a little more, little lower price point. And I showed them to Serge because I didn't want to just be like, oh, we made these mugs for your show, by the way. So I was like, hey, check it out. Beej and I are thinking of going with these. What do you think? And Serge was like, yeah, these look really cool. Awesome. I had been thinking it'd be really cool to go with something like specifically like Keep Cup because they do a lot of work with coffee shops and they're sort of like they're like an industry standard for like a really nice portable cup or whatever. And so then I went back to Beej and was like, Serge says the thing that I wanted is correct. And so then was like, all right, fine. So then we had to decide, like the colors, and do we go with the, like the plastic or the glass? And we went with glass and cork because
the glass and cork is just so beautiful.
So
I don't know.
It's really nice. I like it a lot. I use
There's just really something special. It seems weird to make it sound like I'm plugging my own merch or something like that, but to have my name on a Keep Cup.
Yeah.
Because I worked with these so much in coffee for years. And the brand has worked with a lot of other things. They actually had a collaboration with Star Wars where they looked like little stormtroopers. You could picture like the white body and how the cap would fit on top to work like that too. It's
these colors are only available because of the Star Wars thing, by the way.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure this is like Stormtrooper white or something. Like I'll have to hang on. Let me go look this up. But like their big selection of like the colors that you can customize from. One of these is definitely from that Star Wars marketing push.
Interesting. Yeah, but just for them to be, I don't know. It's weird. I don't have a good way to describe the significance of why this is so important to me. It is.
That's totally sweet. I think that's great. Soft charcoal. No, it was something else. What was it?
There was a question a while ago, and I know you're hosting the Q's, but there is one I'd like to
Storm. Yeah, please.
which was, and I wish I could remember who posted the question, but they said, Serge, if we had the opportunity to visit a coffee growing farm as an episode, where would that be? And that's a big question.
Years ago, before all of these things happened, the current ongoings, that was, I think, even before even Chris talked to you, when it was just Serge and I being like, man, it'd be fun to do a show about coffee.
Just more vlogs. What if we just went places and drank coffee and filmed it?
What if we went to a coffee farm as a vlog? Wouldn't that be sweet? Wouldn't that be super fun, you and I going to a coffee farm? So trust that we have thought of that and desperately want to do something like that. But yeah, where would we go?
So probably the most practical answer would be Hawaii.
Really?
I mean, flights are cheap. We speak the same language, and they've made a big tourism thing out of it. It's very easy to just show up and book a tour for a coffee farm in Hawaii because they do that. Also, I know the owner of this is very ambitious. It's a restaurant, cafe, hotel, cafe school, coffee farm on Big Island where they have everything.
That's so much.
Yeah, where you can just stay there. All your meals are taken care of. It's got a view of the ocean.
Oh my God.
It's kind of ridiculous. And it's like the entire journey of everything you want to have for coffee all in one place.
That is amazing.
You get some B-roll from Magnum, too.
Yeah. I'm going to post as Kathleen in the chat here. Sorry, this is a link to the Keep Cup Star Wars thing just because I think it's funny. Wow, what a very specific thing.
Right? Yeah, because I met this person years ago in 2013. Joe and I just quit our jobs and went and traveled the world for about 8 months. For people who've known me for longer than just Loading Ready Run, that's also when I lost 60 pounds and came back a much smaller human. So if you look at 2012 Serge versus 2013 Serge, when I did Desert Bus that year, you're like...
You were kicking around the moon base at that time, a little bit.
Well, the early Friday nights when I was working at the parsonage.
Right. Yeah.
And then because I'd done a Desert Bus or two prior to that, but I digress. We were in Hawaii, and I met the person before he opened it up, and he's just like, yeah, I got a PhD in how coffee trees grow. And I'm like, that seems really oddly specific.
That's very specific.
Yeah, and he's basically only set himself up to be consulted by coffee farmers to talk about how to optimize their plants. And so he ended up opening this place otherwise because he could talk about the love of it and then show people coffee farms. And it's kind of random. But if I had to actually pick a country to go to, and this might be somewhat counterintuitive because most people think of Africa or they think of South America when they think of coffee growing regions, I'd go back to Thailand. Which is actually some of the first coffee farms I ever visited.
Interesting.
And had an amazing time up there. And we'd probably go to the Chiang Mai area. And there's a group of people up there called the Aka, which are just trying to think of the proper term, the native people of the region who live in the mountains and grow coffee. And there's a cafe called Akaama. And one of their big things is talking about basically educating people on the process of from seed to cup, which is a big thing you hear in coffee there's more going
amazing.
Yeah, there's more going on in coffee than just the barista grinds some beans and there it is. There's the planting, the growing of the tree, the processing of the beans, the roasting of the beans, and then all of that. And most people only think of the final step when they get their coffee. They don't think of the 8 to 14 steps that happen before that. And you can walk through all of that there, which is very cool.
That's so cool. Love it. All right. Let's wrap up here with a question from Rock Pusher. When you could take the show international, what other cities would you like to hit? What are some coffee hotspots? I can think of one offhand.
All right, you go first.
Melbourne.
Ooh.
They take their coffee very seriously in Australia, particularly around Melbourne.
So I've had fantastic experiences having coffee in most major cities, which is very cool.
Yeah, it turns out
you're getting
most
up there.
Places, yeah.
San Antonio, we had amazing time going for coffee there. Seattle, we had an amazing time going for coffee there. But if we're talking about like, all right, unlimited budget, let's go. We're probably going to Japan.
Oh yeah.
Because there are some amazing cafes in Tokyo. There's one called Cafe Bach, which I hope is still open because it was there years ago. You walk in, they're playing classical music. All of the staff are wearing like traditional high fashion like waiter outfits. So black vests, white dress shirt, apron.
Wow.
They seat you at a table and hand you a menu of coffee, and then they present it to you in fine china.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and you're like, I've never seen another place that prepares coffee for you like the Japanese prepare single origin coffee for you. They have a sister cafe in Osaka, maybe it's in Kyoto, called Cafe Bahnhof. They have these like very weird European names, and they do the same thing. And possibly also Oslo. Scandinavians love their coffee, and there'll be some good stuff to do there.
I also want to experience Turkish coffee someday.
Oh God, yeah.
And like the cups in the hot sand.
So
yeah, I know it's like a very different thing, but
Turkish coffee is very good, very good.
Someone was saying, doesn't Australia drink a ton of instant coffee? Yes, but that's more so at home. So okay, Australia has two extremes of coffee in that it's instant or espresso. There's no drip. There's no drip coffee. When you're at a restaurant in the morning and you're just like, oh, I'll just have a coffee. They're going to be like, yes. Waiting expectantly for you to specify, a latte or a cappuccino or a flat white, generally a flat white. But there's no like a coffee. That's not a thing. So I find that very interesting. Also, their instant is very good. So, okay. What's that?
This was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. This was, Serge, again, very much like the show itself. Serge was like, hey, do you want to do a stream where we do like a Q&A, sort of like a behind the scenes of the show? I think that'd be a fun idea.
Like most of the ideas, that was Chris whispering in my other ear and then me just whispering it to you. Like,
what a game of telephone we've created. I love it. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, thanks, Chris, for joining us. Thank you, both of you, for pushing the notion this way, and thanks everybody for joining us for this. Go back and check it out if you haven't seen it. Obviously, if you're here for some reason and you haven't seen Coffee with Serge, go check it out. And with absolutely no promises, we hope we would like to bring more to you someday, but who knows when that will be. But I would like that very much. It's my face behind this logo for Patreon. It's our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Everything supports that. I didn't even consider that, of course, there would also be Twitch subscribers, as we are also supported directly by you here on Twitch. So I guess we should welcome some subs before I take off for dinner. So thanks, everybody.
Look at Chris's face. Chris is like, wait a second, I have to read Twitch names? I didn't sign up for this.
I don't know if I can.
Oh, no. Are you watching the preview?
No, I was saving resources.
Well.
Then, of course. Right, that preview. Yes.
Yeah, let me start with Rexplosion. Welcome back for 16 months. Thank you so much.
We got a real legit streamer been here for 21 months. You got this, Chris.
So weird. Eric for 86 months. Thank
You've been on the other end of this numerous occasions. Aquarionics for 82 months. Welcome back.
Sinbad EV, thank you for 9 months.
That's ecologically sound. TPR Jones for 71 months. Thank you for subscribing.
Life Character for 51 months. Welcome back.
Umbra Kitty Girl has been here for 18 months. Snackback asks, hey, Chris, what's it like being on this side?
It's much more interactive. Hollow the Wise Wolf for 73 months.
You pronounced the pause. Well done. Well done.
As established, I have watched the show.
Hey, Joey Ballast. Gifted by the Maricat. Thank you.
Narth Blinko, thank you for 38 months.
A Scruff MacGuffin for 37 months. 37.
Surely not in a row. All about 90s anime over here. Loading Ready Run for 19 months. Welcome back.
It's like they know us. I Sew Coffee. Thank you for the Maricat.
I think that was meant to be like ISO coffee, as in like an ISO standard for, because we were talking about roasts. But I love your interpretation.
Is it like ISO coffee that just self-establishes?
Yeah. That's
Karma.
you. Yep.
Gifted by the Meerkat.
Oh, wonderful. Terrific. Thanks, everybody. Oh, hey, and 50 bits from Xanto69. Thank you so much. All right. Oh, well, that is going to do it. Tomorrow. Oh, I was also going to thank Paul for obviously running the tech for all of this. But then we got into
Paul.
subs and anyway. Yeah. Thank you, Paul. Right. So Rhythm Cafe. Tomorrow, Taiko no Tatsujin Rhythmic Adventure Pack as the Taiko no Tatsujin RPG continues. Taiko drumming RPG. Yes. On Monday, I'm going to want to tune in for Dice Friends. It's session 0 of a new Alien campaign with Cameron, once again, as the game mother. This is not a sequel to Heat Death, but it is another Alien campaign. It's called First Law. This is going to be the session 0 for that, so you're going to want to tune in. And then on Tuesday, more Play It Forward with James and Funko.
This is after Dice Friends.
Oh, this is after Dice Friends. I'm sorry. That is also on Monday. That's after Dice Friends. More Escape from Tarkov with James and Funko.
Funko appropriate time.
Right. At Funko friendly hours. Funko being from Australia. And living there still. Then the next morning, James at UK friendly time.
Keep collaborating with people on the other side of oceans.
Yeah, with Uno and Serge first on 9 o'clock. Talking Simulator. Demon's Tilt. I don't know what that is, but I'm curious to find out.
I've been assuming it's some sort of Demon Souls pinball game.
I hope so. That sounds fun. And then on Let's Nope, they will be continuing Resident Evil 4. Sounds like a fun time. That'll do it for looking into the future. For now, I'm going to look into my immediate future, which is dinner. So thanks everybody for joining us. This was a lot of fun. We'll see you later.
Thanks for watching.
Bye everybody.